Well, a good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you might be in the world. I hope the day is beautiful for you or that everything is peaceful for you. Here, where I am in Perth, Western Australia, it is going to be a stinking hot day today because we are now in the midst of summer. But before I get into the video, of course, I want to, as usual, welcome you and thank you for being part of my journey. Of course, we will be talking about Tiger Eye. If you're a returning visitor, of course, you're going to know where I'm going here, which is basically that all the videos are timestamped to make it easier for people to access. Newbies may not know this. I tend to go on a bit of a waffle sometimes. I have a bit of a tangent, and even though I do transcripts and notes, I can find myself deviating down a certain track or a different track or whatever. So what I do is I put the timestamps into the description so that you can easily find the content that you're looking for. Just a little bit of forewarning as well for the newbies. I've got a number of different playlists that are designed to help people reflect and give consideration to different topics as part of them developing their own levels of personal awareness and understanding of universal processes and just finding that that sense of peace, I guess, or because understanding is a big thing. Anyway, the more information we share, the more we grow as a collective. So I encourage everybody to put up their viewpoints, their understandings, their beliefs, because at the end of the day, my understandings and beliefs are based on my own experiences, and those experiences can either be personal or they can be shared with me from other people, or they may have been things that I've researched or felt guided to look into, reflected upon, and felt them to be true or accurate for me. But we're always in this constant state of growth and learning. So I'm open to receiving any information you want to share, basically. And I'm sure there's going to be other people, even if they don't agree. A lot of people, once comments start going up on the wall, they will read the comments, and that will actually prompt reflection for them as well. But without any further ado, let's jump straight in and start talking about Tiger Eye. Tiger Eye is just one of those crystals that, whether you're into metaphysical properties or not, a person can't help but appreciate the beauty of it, and it's up there as one of my favorites. And this is because the area that I grew up in, some people, if you've watched the hematite video, you're going to know that this was the area that I grew up in. And Tiger Eye certainly has components of iron or hematite in it. So it was all around the same area is where I'm going with this. So it was abundant, shall we say, and just about every house that you went into would have, and it turns out, I didn't know it at the time, of course, because I was a child, but really good quality Tiger Eye as bookends. Everybody had some Tiger Eye or hematite on their bookshelves and stuff like that. And the type of Tiger Eye that was prevalent in the area that I was growing up was this Tiger Eye that the image on the right anyway, it was similar to that, except that it was more banded. So basically on our bookshelves, it was like a sandwich of gold, these golden fibrous type crystals. Of course, we didn't call it crystals. It was just, Tiger Eye. It was what was there. There was no ooh, ah, or anything. It just is what it is. But the other thing too, I want to draw to your attention, what makes it really unique, and you can understand when you look at this eye of the tiger and the image on the left, why it's called Tiger Eye. It's just so striking, in its natural state. By the way, it actually is very textured. So while that crystal on the right is tumbled and polished and all the rest of it, you should be able to see that because it's shiny. Okay. Tiger Eye in its natural state, that golden bit is shiny. It does have a bit of a luster to it, shall we say, but the other part, the brownie part, which is I don't know, it probably feels a bit granity, but either way, it's not the same. It's not a smooth texture. It's actually quite grainy. And yes, you see it in the bands as well. The bands don't have that textured finish either, but either way, it is an absolutely beautiful crystal. I think you will agree. So now we're going to talk about it a bit more as far as what makes Tiger Eye what it is and how we can use it to improve our health and well-being. So from a metaphysical perspective, tiger eye in itself is actually recommended for people that are under the sun sign of Leo, Capricorn, or Virgo. Now, just to reiterate, if you've watched any of the other videos, you will know that I am a believer that I have actually no idea why there are these recommendations as far as the Astro links go. But at the same time, I would encourage anybody who feels drawn to a specific crystal to use that, because that's their inner guidance. Just because it's recommended for a specific sun sign doesn't mean that it's exclusive use. We can all benefit from the healing attributes of a crystal at any given time. And of course, when we talk about buying, or when we go into the buying tips, I'll explain to you, I'll give you a few tips on what you can do, because at the end of the day, sometimes this is why I like going into a physical shop as opposed to an online shop. Sometimes we can be drawn to a crystal, or think we're going to buy a crystal. We want a crystal for a purpose, but when we actually go into a premise and we hold the different crystals, we actually go home with something that is probably better for us than the crystal that we thought we were going in there for. We're going to be talking about the metaphysical attributes of tiger eye very shortly, but in the meantime, from an overview perspective, when we talk about tiger eye, it carries with it the properties of prosperity and practicality. It's a very earthy crystal. It's very grounding. It is definitely associated with money, wealth, and abundance. It inspires confidence, trust, faith, and hope, all those attributes that are empowering. So this is why it's associated with personal power and also for manifestation. I must say right now, if you hear some squeaking in the background, that's because my little doggy has got a new toy, and hopefully he's not going to go too crazy, and I'll be able to just push on through with the video with him in the background. So when it comes to the mineral information about tiger eye, this is where it actually gets quite interesting, and it's fairly important for those of us that love tiger eye and love to buy it and love to have it as part of our collection. So basically, it's comprised primarily of silicon dioxide. I'm going to use some big words here, okay, because I've gone to visit the geology sites, and I think this is really important from a buying perspective when it comes to tiger eye, to actually understand this, okay? So it is a quartz. You don't look at tiger eye and think, oh yeah, that's a quartz, because a quartz is, for example, amethyst and citrine. They are also comprised of silicon dioxide. They are quartzes as well, but we don't look at tiger eye and think, oh yeah, that looks like, amethyst or citrine. They are completely distinct and different crystals. Part of the variation with them, of course, is actually to do with what they call chatoyance. Now, chatoyant, you're going to see this once you start Googling and researching crystals. You see it everywhere. And what that means is that basically it reflects, there's the play upon the light that you get. Goodness me, the doggy, I might have to put him out. Let me try and get back to this. Basically, it's the chatoyancy that gives the golden part of the tiger eye this beautiful reflective aspect. And more, if I want to use the language of the geologists or whatever, it says it refers to a phenomenon where there is a cat's eye, where basically the light reflects and moves across the surface of the crystal, and this is what gives tiger eye that beautiful luster, that gold part of the crystal that I'm talking about. So we don't see that in this image here, but I wanted to keep this image of the slabs in so that you can actually see the layering. And to some extent, if you were to actually zoom in on those slabs, you would see those fine lines. Those fine lines are the fibers that I was talking about. And, the tiger eye that we always had when we were growing up, it was actually not fibrous to the touch. It didn't feel like you were touching fibers or cotton, but it had that the texture. And from memory, because we're going back a lot of years now, I'm obviously in my senior years now, so this is back in my childhood, and I don't recall ever being able to pick at those fibers and have them loosen up. But it definitely felt like fibers when you run your fingers across the gold. So the other factor when we talk about this fibrous, they're called fibrous inclusions, is that the tiger's eye part is actually really only the gold part. That's the tiger's eye, because the tiger eye slab or rock is made up of different types of minerals. And you see that with the reddish and brownish type banding that goes through the tiger eye. Hopefully the little boy's walked off and gone to do something else for now. You also do see it not so much with these blue tiger eye beads. This is why I've put this bracelet in here, is so that you can actually see the variations. Obviously, blue tiger eye is far more rare. It is far more expensive. There's some other stuff here that I put in my notes and I've kind of lost it. Okay, when tiger eye forms, it does, as I say, form in these layers, and it's supposed to be, by all accounts, part of what is called tiger iron. So when we talk of tiger iron, which is a separate crystal and carries separate properties, some the same, tiger eye is apparently part of that. And apparently the way that tiger eye forms is called pseudomorphism, whatever that means. I did Google it, but honestly, I'm no expert and I don't really want to articulate. If there's a geo watching this video, please feel free to actually put your comments up. But either way, the blue tiger eye, I would imagine, will be a lot more expensive because it is so rare. Now, generally speaking, your tiger eye is going to be between 6.5 and 7 on the hardness scale, which means that it's reasonably hard, but it is still possible to damage it. Did I mention the fact that generally speaking, the colours are yellow and brown? I have seen red, or what they call cherry or red tiger eye, but I'm not sure that that's a name that I would agree with. And you can see in these beads here, there are some that look more red or more cherry. So I would imagine this is this bracelet's being marketed as red, blue and gold tiger eye. But we'll look at that a bit more closely on the next slides. So before we talk more specifically about tiger iron itself, I wanted to actually put up these images of tiger iron because this is all part of informing you when you do your buying, what it is you're looking for. And basically, if you're paying a good price for the product that you're purchasing. So as discussed in the mineral content, tiger eye is part of tiger iron. So you can see, I think the best example of this is when we look at the image on the right hand side, you see all of that different banding and you can see there's a clear streak. This wouldn't be a very big slab of tiger iron, by the way. So the slabs where you get these really big bits of tiger iron, they must come from tiger iron, did I say? That golden tiger eye that, of course, I love that color. So they must come from some pretty darn big slabs of tiger iron. But you can see here with these layers, you've got very distinct layers. The stripes are different types of minerals. I think I call it a bit of a golden sandwich there, actually. I think, just to be clear, I think one of those layers, the dark brown, is either a hematite or magnetite, and you also get layers of the jasper. Going back to the mineral stuff, apparently when it's forming, they call it a pseudo metamorphic or whatever, is because it starts out as one particular layer or crystal, and then another mineral element gets put into the mix and alters the whole makeup of the next layer of the crystal. That, I think, is what they're talking about. But I've got to say, in my defense, while I sound confused, the bottom line is I'm not a geologist, and I noticed in my research that even the geologists argue and debate about how tiger eye is actually formed, and a few more things that we'll be talking about in a moment, because I've actually had my eyes opened quite a bit with tiger eye just making this video. So the other thing that I did, I put on here the little spheres that's being sold as cherry tiger eye. Now, if you were paying attention to the other slide, you're going to know that actually tiger eye doesn't come red. Okay, tiger eye is gold. That's it. It is a brownish gold color, but it will have stripes of, say, jasper or hematite in it. So therefore, this is just my belief. When we're looking at red tiger eye, you can see there's very little gold in that. So hazarding a guess, I would say that what is marketed as cherry tiger eye, is probably primarily the red jasper that you see elsewhere. Just for your information, just in case you're interested, that really colourful striped tiger iron, the middle image and the image on the right, that is both, I wouldn't say super common in the area where I grew up, but it's certainly there. It's accessible and it's available. And of course, yes, I love it. Now, originally, before I move on to the next slide, I'm going to make a statement here, which is that normally I'm all for actually leaving a crystal in as pristine a state as you can. Now, this is a personal preference. I knew years ago I got told that if crystals are handled by people, they pick up their energy and all of that kind of stuff. And so there were some people that I knew that wouldn't buy anything that was polished or treated or whatever. Now, my reasons for preferring the natural is not because people have touched it or handled it. I mean, if it's coming out the ground, somebody's had to dig it out. For me, it's actually because I think when we look at these kind of images, it's just breathtaking. Of course, I know plenty of geos that are absolutely not into crystals, as in the metaphysical. They're just like, it's just a rock. But for me, and probably most people, I think when you look at this kind of striking, the layers, the stripes, the color tones and all the rest of it, that in itself, to me, I just feel so incredibly can't even speak, blessed. You know what I mean? The earth is amazing. The creator energy, I feel like when I look at these types of crystals, I can see the creator's hand in everything, because to me, to create something stunning as we have here can't be an accident. That's my attitude. So that's why I love the natural state. So I've got an enormous transcript here to read out to you, because I did do my research and I went and got all the big words and all the rest of it so that I could impress you all. I'm joking, by the way. I did actually do a transcript and I did get the big words, but not because I wanted to impress you, but because I wanted to be thorough. I'll go back to this. The reason why I have somewhat of a snobbery around tiger eye is obviously I have been exposed to some very high grade tiger eye during my childhood, and I actually didn't realize that it came in a muddy looking thing. For me, to put this into perspective for you, all the tiger eye that I was exposed to, if you look at the triangle shape on the top left of this slide, you're going to see that there is a really fibrous granular tiger eye to that. Now, that's what I grew up with, but if you then look over to the right-hand side of the slide, the top right-hand side, you will see that beautiful South African specimen. So what we had was this fibrous type tiger eye. This is in the area where I grew up in Western Australia, with the colouring of the South African. Now, just to be clear, this was all mined out a long time ago, as I know. But you can see anyway by looking at these photos that tiger eye comes in a multitude of shapes and forms. Now, when I look at these, I can understand why people might say cherry tiger eye, but I'll come back to that in a moment, because I have changed my viewpoint. Where I said before that I like it in its natural state, I'm going to say to people, do not buy it in its natural state. That was back in the 70s, okay? That was a long time ago, and they did not have the information that they do now. When we look at these pictures here, for example, the one on the bottom left is from Brockman, Western Australia. These are all areas where I grew up. The one that's top centre, that's called Whitnoom, that's got this light bluey, pinky type colour to it, that also is the area where I was living. You could say, look, Western Australia is a very big place. So when we go into these communities, because these are the remote areas of Western Australia, it really is no big deal to actually drive 200 mile up the road so that you can have a barbecue lunch or something, or go to the pub. And at Whitnoom, where if you can see, if you're putting it together, maybe I'm going too fast, but the light blue with the fibrous, Wittenoom was basically, I think it took us about an hour and a half to drive there, and it was a regular visit for us when we were children. It was a family outing. Everybody used to go up there and have a lunch at the pub or whatever. They had an outdoor area, and it was just great fun growing up. That is now a ghost town because Wittenoom was actually where they mined asbestos, and this is why I'm going to have this conversation with you in a moment. I have learned today that actually Tiger Eye contains asbestos. There is a debate about how much asbestos, but either way, you don't need much asbestos for it to actually be lethal, which is why the mine site was closed down. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit more because you can still use Tiger Eye, but you would not use it raw. And I want to make the point here that when I was going to university and doing my studies, they kind of told us as lecturers that any studies that are considered to be less than 5 years old are considered to be current evidence and research. But if it's older than 5 years, then most of the time it needs to be reviewed and checked to see if there's changes. So where I'm going with this is it would appear based on the geology websites and the evidence and that kind of thing that the current information is that it is unlikely to be lethal to a wearer if they are using it as jewellery, as long as Tiger Eye has been polished, okay, or sealed in some way, shape or form. It's not going to be hazardous to the wearer. However, if that bead or if you've got an obelisk or whatever, if it were to break, then there may be a risk associated with that. And as I said, you don't need a lot of asbestos for it to be lethal. And the condition that it causes is a lung condition. It's asbestosis, and it's particularly unpleasant. So where I'm going with this is that Wittenoom image that you can see, which has got the pink and the blue in it, it is that blue stuff. That is the asbestos. So I did a bit more research, just so you know. I thought, well, I'm not going to stop there because I thought, why on earth would anybody buy blue Tiger Eye? It was beyond me. So then I had a look at the Ashburton one here. I need to actually mention here that I've got most of these images from MindDat, which is the geology source, and I do go and check out other things as well. But anyway, the image that I've got up there is Ashburton, which is also the region where I was growing up. I thought, is that blue Tiger Eye? It's actually petersite. So I thought to myself, oh, well, it's petersite then. That's all right. Then if it's petersite, Tiger Eye and petersite, that's good because that's not asbestos. Guess what? It actually is, okay? But I shouldn't say it like that because that makes it sound alarming, okay? So to be a little bit technical about it, Tiger Eye and petersite are not asbestos within themselves. What they've got is some asbestos. It is the fibrous texture of these crystals they get from the correct term is actually crocodilite, if you don't mind. And that is, I guess, and I'm open to correction here, but this is my understanding. It is that crocodilite that forms the substance of the fibres within the crystals, whether it's petersite, whether it is Tiger Eye or whatever, that textured stuff, that is asbestos. Now, of course, it's not in huge quantities, so I need to be clear about this. It's not in big quantities within the makeup, generally speaking, of Tiger Eye or of petersite, but it is still there. And so I just want to make this point because it is a safety thing. If you're a jeweler and you're actually responsible for doing the polishing of these crystals for people's use, you really should be wearing the appropriate safety gear. We in Western Australia, I think all of Australia actually, we're very well informed of risks of asbestosis, along with skin cancer, because those are things that we can easily get here, I guess, and because the asbestosis is something that made the news big time because of what happened at Wittenoom. There were people that actually, like because you're going back to the 70s when people had these gender roles where the men went out to work and the women stayed at home, cooked dinner and washed the clothes and that kind of stuff. Well, there were women that got asbestosis, and they believe it's because you can't see all of these fibres. They're not all visual. You only need to have one little fibre and inhale it to end up developing asbestosis. But, I've got to say, I must say, despite the fact that this evidence is out there, and I say it is evidence, it is proven, I think it is not proven why some people can contract it and others can't. Now, I just explained to you earlier, we had tiger eye bookends. They were not sealed, okay? So that means that basically every house in the little town that I grew up in, or pretty close to it, we were actually exposed to asbestos fibres through the tiger eye. And I don't think any of us ended up with asbestosis, but who would know, okay? So I'm just letting you know this. The consensus of the experts was there is no risk if the crystal is polished, if there is a seal on it. The jewelers bear the risk. There may be a very slight risk if the crystal was to break, like I said, or shatter, and that can just be even a small chip, because as I said before, it only takes one tiny little fibre for a person to inhale that and become unwell, apparently. And by the way, asbestosis is lethal. I don't think there's any recovery from it if you were to contract it, but I'm not sure. But anyway, now that I've done with the safety stuff, let's get cracking on something a little bit more interesting. But actually, before I do, I just wanted to show you an image of asbestos before we shift on to the next slide. The asbestos in this image is not the grey bit in the middle. It's actually those blue fluffy fibrous bits, just in case you didn't realise it. And I think when you look at it like this, you can understand how tiger eye and petersite are influenced by it. I mean, it's pretty, says me trying to find the positive. Anyway, enough of that. So now let's talk about the spiritual metaphysical benefits of tiger eye once we put aside the safety issues. There shouldn't be, I'm going to run with the fact that there shouldn't be a problem if you're actually wearing it as a polished jewellery item or a tumble stone, or if you're holding an obelisk or a tower, it shouldn't be a problem. So primarily, and before I get into that, everything today is before I get into that, I do apologise for the quality of this video. I've had to stop and start, so I hope that it's not too bad. I've had some technology issues. I've had some issues with my little puppy dog. So now I'm going to crack on and just do the best I can. Anyway, when it comes to the spiritual metaphysical benefits with tiger eye, it is a very practical crystal. Its focus and its energy is on primarily addressing earth-based needs, you may as well say. And so, of course, when we're talking about the spiritual aspect of being a person having a human experience, we've got physical needs. That's the bottom line. So ideally, the energetic spiritual properties are those that encourage the completion of manifestations, through from setting the goals, setting the intention, trying to draw to you, well, I shouldn't say trying, because the idea is that obviously tiger eye is going to support you manifesting to the completed stage. It is also said to offer protection, both as an energy protection, as in your aura, your auric boundaries, your etheric bodies, and all of this kind of thing, but also personal protection. So if you were perhaps going into an unsafe situation, you were concerned and thought you might need a little bit of extra protection, then you could wear tiger eye as a talisman of protection. It's said also to balance the internal and energetic polarities. And when we talk about polarities, we're talking about yin yang, which is male, female, masculine, feminine, all of this kind of thing. It's, as I said before, it's supposed to be a magnet to draw prosperity to you. So this is why it's so good for, I can't believe my doggy today. This is why it's supposedly such a good crystal for manifesting, particularly if you're going into business or something like that. It's supposed to be a lucky crystal. And one of the ways that I've seen people will use tiger eye is in the same way as people will use citrine, which is to pop a little piece in their wallet if they're trying to manifest money. And when we talk about grounding and centering, this is about, if we're off with the fairies, then we're not actually addressing our physical concerns, which means that if you're trying to manifest anything at all, the reality is it won't come to fruition, or it will be unlikely to come to fruition, because for anything to happen, the energy might be there to support it. But you as an individual will still have to take certain actions and decisions to ensure that this manifestation is completed. And this is basically the whole idea, the whole rationale behind how tiger eye works, which is setting the foundations to build and expand upon the spiritual aspects. And I'll try and explain that a little bit more when we get down to the discussion of the chakras. But you will know within yourself that logically and rationally speaking, if you do not have a firm base, if you're dealing with housing insecurity or job insecurity or whatever, or fighting each week for $1, then it's going to be a huge distraction and take you away from actually other expansive spiritual stuff. So shall we say that, we can do meditation, for example, but while we're meditating, we're not actively doing anything physically, where that focus is all on the soul and on the state of mind or the emotional well-being, but there's no physical activity, unless you're doing mindfulness. I've got to say, I need to put a little disclaimer there, unless you're doing mindful activities, but it's kind of difficult to actually be manifesting when you're doing mindfulness as well. Actually, I might as well just put that in there. The other thing that we get with tiger eye is, because it instills this energy of confidence, that's going to support all the other activities that you do, whether they're physical, whether they're to do with psychological, emotional, or whatever. There is another recommendation too that I've seen with tiger eye. It's not something that I've personally tried out, but if you're going into legal meetings or where there's a big decision that needs to be made, that is probably legally related, it is suggested that you wear a piece of tiger eye into those meetings or into your court hearings if you've got to go to them, as part of creating an energy for best outcomes. I will also make the point of saying that there are some people that claim that it's supposed to enhance the connection with extraterrestrial energies. Now, this is not part of my experience personally. It's not something I've observed, but I think it would be remiss of me not to point out that what I find as an interesting connection with that thought or that claim or allegation is all the areas where I've been talking about tiger eye being found in Western Australia and the areas where I've lived. Of course, there has been a lot of Aboriginal people in those areas, and there is a very strong connection for them within those areas to what they call the rainbow serpent. So I just find that a little bit coincidental. And when they start doing their energy work, it has been said to me, and I have witnessed strange occurrences with cloud formations becoming a vortex. I'm not going to say anything as gospel that this is related to that or X or Y, but I just think that's an interesting claim and an interesting association that I can see with tiger eye to an area that is supposed to have elevated spirituality attached to it. If people are using cherry tiger eye, or what we call cherry tiger eye, that's supposed to support a person to reach their potential. And other people or other recommendations for using tiger eye from a metaphysical perspective is it's supposed to help people that are pursuing careers in fields of drama and theatrics to achieve their goals as well, basically become successful. And the other thing is that from an energetic perspective, tiger eye is said to help a person release any fears that they might hold about becoming a powerful person. So I guess tiger eye also comes into its own when we're talking about the emotional and mind or psychological metaphysical benefits, because at the end of the day, if somebody is feeling blue, if they've got symptoms of depression, it's supposed to reduce those symptoms. If they've got, I suppose, trauma might be, it's not recommended as a trauma crystal per se, but I'm thinking here that one of the symptoms of trauma and PTSD and that kind of thing is this business of ruminating and taking themselves away, going back and reflecting on the past, whereas Tiger Eye will help to center and ground them in the present moment. Now, the other thing too is it's recommended for people who are going through turbulent change or who are surrounded by chaos. It helps where PTSD is backward looking, shall we say. Anxiety is forward looking, the fear of the future. So centering and grounding helps to keep a person present so that they can make healthy decisions for the future. So there becomes that emotional balance within that. So anyway, it's said to also help a person have clarity around their thoughts, their ideas, their attitudes, and their intention of what it is that they're trying to create. As I said before, it's about building self-confidence. It's attributed to help a person to recognize what their gifts are. A lot of the time people underrate what they have and what they can offer people, and they also will doubt themselves and I guess even perhaps doubt the quality of work that they might do. So it's supposed to build self-confidence as well. Did I say conflict resolution? It's going to help conflict resolution based on the fact that when we are calm and we have clarity of thought and intention and purity of intention, then we're better able to navigate those challenges that come up along the path. It also, when we're talking about reshaping beliefs, this is one of the reasons why I've got depression here, is because people that have got depression, quite often there's an emotional resistance to change going on for them. So it helps to release resistance. Let me just reflect on my notes for a moment here. Just that when we release resistance to change, then it helps us to remain positive about what may or may not happen in the future. So we have a whole attitude shift that goes on there. It's said to be a fortunate crystal. And I guess from a personal perspective, feeling fortunate is about feeling lucky, feeling blessed, feeling grateful. And these are all attributes that actually shape the way we feel, and also that we can expand upon and become more positive and let go. If we've been a victim of anything, and we may well have, the problem with having been a victim is sometimes we get stuck in that past of being a victim. So this is about shifting away from feeling a victim of circumstances even, and deciding, no, I am not going to let my past dictate my future, and actually moving toward it. Now, I also mentioned too that the self-worth, I've already said that, but the self-worth aspect, I guess, is worth a double mention, because where that is relevant is we've all been guilty of it at some stage. We can be very harshly critical. We can have some really negative self-speak going on around us. So Tiger Eye is credited with helping a person to overcome that. And that's all part of creating that positive mindset. There is also the business of trust that's related to this, the ability to trust yourself and the decisions that you make, and to know that the decisions that you make are the best decisions being made at the time. Sometimes decisions are made with limited choices, and we just have to trust ourselves that we're making the best decision. But other times it can be that we make the decision then, but we might have to go a couple of months and then make a new decision because circumstances change, especially if we had limited options that presented to us at the time. So I think I've explained it is an emotional balancer. It does help to soften any resistance and stubbornness. It will, at the very least from a psychological perspective, help to build this firm foundation that allows you to do that inner reflection, exploration, and pursue your spiritual path or journey. It's also recommended that people, when they're feeling scattered or overwhelmed, that they can actually wear a piece of Tiger Eye as part of regrouping and just calming, just that whole recentering. So I'm going to stop waffling here, actually, because I've just seen how long this video has taken because of the stopping and starting them, and obviously this lengthy discussion about the mineral components of tiger eye and, of course, any risk factors. So what we've got here is a list of some of the physical benefits and attributes as far as healing goes. Now, once again, I always say, and I have to say this again, that you do not stop seeing your doctor or your treating professionals when it comes to physical or mental health conditions. You use your crystals in conjunction with whatever the plans are. You can see here, though, that most of the healing properties are directed towards organs actually that are affected by conditions such as anxiety and depression, the nervous stomach. And I've put neural processing in there. I don't think you're going to see that anywhere else. And that's because, based on my studies, I'm aware that when we're creating new behaviors and new thoughts and new attitudes, what we're doing is actually repatterning our brain, and that is a physiological condition with the neural pathways. So I believe that tiger eye will help to benefit people in this way, with that, just with the thought change at the very least. And just remember that as we get the emotional aspect of self under control, it's always going to carry forward as a positive for the physical body. So when it comes to the chakras, if we're talking just about the golden yellow type tiger eye, what I believe, and I really must adjust this image, is that when we talk about the yellow tiger eye, we're talking about a crystal that resonates most deeply with the solar plexus, the sacral, the root and the base, and then down below the feet there is another one. If this image was standing up about, I don't know, half a meter, which is what, 2 foot beneath the feet, there is another chakra that is called the earth star. So what I would believe is that the tiger eye, the golden tiger eye, is focused on really anchoring and supporting the foundational aspects of the person's chakra system. And if you think about it like this, you cannot build a house out of sticks if you don't have a firm foundation, not a lasting one. You can always build one that will be temporary, as a temporary shelter. But if you want long lasting and enduring solidity of any construction, you need to have the firm foundations. And this is what tiger eye is actually going to offer people, that, building these firm foundations. Because as you go up into the heart chakra, if you haven't got that substance there, actually, let me put this more into perspective. You need to have your physical needs covered. You need to have a roof over your head, somewhere to live, somewhere to feel safe, okay? Because when we feel safe, we actually are able to trust the process of life and feel comfortable. We trust our decisions, and it's kind of a liberation thing. The yellow chakra is about personal power and feeling confident about who we are and how we interact with the world. This is just part of the process. But once we've got those in place, then we're able to open up the heart chakra, and we're more comfortable showing our vulnerabilities, showing people that, hey, we are human, different strokes for different folks kind of thing, but I'm comfortable and I'm happy with who I am. Thank you very much. That kind of thing. But we can't really get into those higher areas until we've got the ground level sorted out. So that's what tiger eye does. It actually sets your auric body up for further development. So, of course, with the lengthy discussion that we've all had about the problem with tiger eye and the fibers, if it's unsealed and that kind of thing, it's perfectly safe to use as a jewelry item as long as it's sealed, okay? As long as it's polished, as long as it's not fibrous. The same with holding it or using it in the environment or as an ornament. You can certainly do that. It's not going to be a problem. But if you drop it or chip it, then you might want to review that. I'm not saying for sure that it would not be safe, because I did see one online where a gem was chipped, a tumble stone actually, and the geologist turned around and said, well, look, you don't need to worry about it. The biggest risk of it and you got to have a bit of sense of humor here as well. The biggest risk attached with that particular crystal is if one of your children swallowed it, it would go clink when it goes down the toilet. So I thought that was quite reassuring for them. At the same time, it's up to the individual. I just say, follow your own guidance, your own intuition. But it's made me review how I will use Tiger Eye going forward. And that is, if it becomes damaged, I'll just have to dispose of it. And when I mean dispose of it, I tend to give it back to the earth. I'll go bury it somewhere in the bush or something. So the first thing when it comes to crystal care, obviously, is don't put it with other crystals. Don't allow it to be scratched. Protect it. Keep it safe. Stop it from getting damaged. Then the other thing is, if you're into the metaphysical, well, you will want to recharge. You will want to do an energetic cleanse and that kind of thing. So, yes, of course, you could still use selenite. I will be a bit cautious with selenite going forward, though, because selenite can actually be a bit scratchy. So that might mean if I'm going to recharge my Tiger Eye, I might lay it on a tissue or a cloth or something and then put the Tiger Eye on top of it. Depending on what it is, of course. Or I might get a small piece of, it's all about the shape. I might get a small piece of selenite and lay that on top of the Tiger Eye if it was a tower, say. What else could you do? You could put it out in the sun. You could put it moonlight. Once again, when it's sun, I've got to say, I don't think that Tiger Eye actually suffers from exposure with the Australian sunlight, but I haven't tested it out. I would be very careful with tumbled stones if I was putting them out for a sun recharge for the morning, because I'm pretty sure the birds will go for them. They'll try and pick them up and run away with them. As I've said before, I'm not a fan of salt. Each to their own. Some people like salt. Definitely, I'm comfortable with putting it into, say, a little bit of earth, perhaps a pot plant, maybe with a bit of lavender or sage. What else could you do? Definitely, obviously, I always put the images up of the incense, because people will do clearing with whatever incense is comfortable to them. Like I see a lot of people recommend the Palo Santo. I've never used it. I've only heard about it more recently, and I'm sure it's very good. But one of my popular ones for clearing and cleansing, actually, I will alternate. I might use sage sometimes. I might use sandalwood. I might use lavender. I might use frankincense and myrrh. A lot of it depends on what I've got at hand at the time. But anyway, if you've got any suggestions, do let us know. Now, there's obviously a handful of affirmations here for you to try out. Remember, just adjust them, adapt them to suit your speak, what you're comfortable with. And I put in an extra one this time about physical illness. With this, I am willing and able to release the root cause of illness at a cellular level, and I give thanks for my full health. I am, That's just an extra one I put in there for the sake of it. Once again, if you've got any ideas or thoughts or feedback, please do let us know. So from a messenger or oracle perspective, Tiger Eye really is turning around and saying to a person, if they put their hand in my lucky dip and said, what does this mean? And they had a Tiger Eye in their hand, I'd be saying, it's a message. You need to let go of the negative self-critical judgments and start trusting yourself and trusting the universe, and really know that you are supported, by the universe. And yes, what else can I say? Let go, release any fears you've got about being a powerful person, because often in life problems occur because people are too timid to stand up and speak their truth. So this would be encouraging you to speak your truth, to stand in your power. And by the way, sometimes when I say speak your truth, sometimes it's about withholding it as well, because sometimes it might be true, but it might be unwise to actually express it. So it would depend. Obviously, whenever I do readings on people and give them messages, it's going to be contextual. It's going to be about what that person is going through at the time and how I interpret, whether it's the card or whether it's the crystals. So, my friends, while I could talk more about Tiger Eye, because I actually really quite love it as a crystal, despite the new information I've found doing this video, perhaps it's better if you ask your questions about Tiger Eye, and then I can respond to them either on the wall, or I can put it on the Sunday yarning as I think aloud. Now, the thing with Tiger Eye as well is if you've got physical health conditions, if you're looking to heal a physical ailment, you can basically, I think, rule of thumb, you could safely say if you've got a health issue in the solar plexus region or the sacral chakra, the orange chakra, or the red chakra, if you're dealing with any health issues in that area, you could probably benefit from wearing or carrying Tiger Eye with you, or even meditating with using it. So that would be my recommendation to you. Of course, as I say, don't disengage from your treating professionals. Just wear it as a complementary thing on top of whatever you're going through. And also just be mindful about what you buy. Try not to pay too much for the item that you're buying. Tiger Eye is fairly common, so it shouldn't actually be super highly charged as far as prices go. In the meantime, I'm going to close off because I just know my little doggy is going to go berserk in a moment. I've bought him a new tie. See, I'm getting stressed out now. I've bought him a new toy and he's very excited. So I'm going to say, love you, leave you. Thank you for being part of my journey. Have a wonderful day, blessed week, and I will catch you on the next video, okay? Take care. Bye-bye for now.